By declaring Russia as the eternal enemy of the United States of America, two purposes are served. First, the president in office can always make people rally round the flag. And secondly, it's great business for the arms industry. Donald Trump was the first president in US history to not consider Russia as an enemy, but as a country with which a new relationship can be forged. But Joe Biden somehow made it to the Oval Office and US foreign policy was back to square one. Russia is again a number one enemy of the United States of America, and China is making full use of an unnecessary Cold War between US and Russia. But President Trump has not abandoned his country. He is still looking over it with watchful eyes. Trump has now given a lesson to Joe Biden in foreign affairs and diplomacy with a sharp criticism of his belligerence towards Russia and love for China. US President Joe Biden may be on a campaign to hurt the free world's interests with his soft China policy and unnecessary verbal aggression against Russia. But Trump isn't letting him get a free pass. In a recent interview with Fox News, Trump tore into Joe Biden for antagonizing Russia while displaying a carefree attitude towards China. Trump slammed Biden's outrageous foreign policy left, right, and center. The former US president explained how Biden is pushing Russia into China's lap and why he must stop doing this. Trump's message to Biden is loud and clear. Focus on China first and stop poking Russia without any provocation or compelling reason. Trump's logic is plain and simple. It is easier to handle one authoritarian power as compared to two of them. Between Russia and China, it makes sense for the US to target China and not Russia because Moscow is no longer a threat to external American interests. On the other hand, China is a rising economic power and much more likely to inflict considerable damage upon the United States of America. So Trump is warning Biden against the impending disaster towards which he is pushing the United States. Therefore, Trump made it clear that the US should try to mend ties with Russia instead of forcing it to land in communist China's lap. He said, "Getting along with President Putin is a great thing. We should be doing business with Russia. We should be getting along with Russia instead of forcing Russia to go into the hands of China." Taking a dig at the US President Joe Biden, Trump also said,
"The worst thing you could do is put China and Russia together, and they're together, and they get forced together. The Russian hoax was very, very bad for the relationship that we would have with Russia."
Trump also slammed the Democrats and American liberal media for the Russian hoax that has damaged the US-Russia relations. For their personal gains, the Democrats led by Joe Biden have frequently alleged Russian interference in American elections. This has of course done a lot of damage to US-Russia ties and has allowed mistrust to develop between both sides. With the Biden administration at the helm of affairs, the US has been constantly antagonizing Russia. In fact, President Biden has been putting entire Eastern Europe against Russia, which also led to Russian troops buildup upon Ukraine's eastern flank. At the same time, Biden has gone too soft on China, and the paper dragon is now threatening the island nation of Taiwan with big and frequent airspace violations. Russia, which was itself trying to maintain a safe distance from China when Trump was in power, suddenly finds itself at the crossroads. Russian President Vladimir Putin therefore finds himself compelled to team up with China in order to handle all the pressure being exerted by a desperate Biden administration. So Biden is forcing the US into a situation where a military threat is slowly emerging in Eastern Europe. This can be solely attributed to Biden's provocations in the region and Russia's retaliatory moves. On the other hand, Beijing has noticed that the Biden administration is becoming too engrossed with Russia. So China is pursuing its own goals in the Indo-Pacific. It has been terrorizing Taiwan on one hand and claiming almost the entire South China Sea region all over again. There has also been a resurgence in Sino-India border tensions, and Beijing anyway remains tempted to claim Japan's Senkaku Islands in the East China Sea. Ultimately, Chinese military maneuvers are going to hurt the US, even though Biden may be turning a blind eye towards them right now. So a second military front is being created for the US in the form of China. The United States is simply too careless to tackle the monstrous threat that Biden is creating for his country. So much so that even former US President Donald Trump had to warn Biden and Americans about the impending disaster.